You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
And now your host of California MUFON Radio, Lorien Fenton.
Welcome, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. So glad to have you here with me on this Wednesday night, December 3rd. And it's 2014 still, and boy, 2015's coming really fast. So I don't know about you guys, but my head's spinning. It was just Thanksgiving, and now it's going to be Christmas in like 2 weeks. I don't know what happened. I think they're purposely squishing time together during the holiday season to see how much money they can get out of all of us in 4 weeks, you know? It's wild. Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, Black Friday. I mean, my God, it's just insane. And, you know, I forgot about Cyber Monday this year. I don't know why I did, but, you know, I should have saved up all year for Cyber Monday because, like, I'm a WordPress web person now. I used to be a web designer for years and years. I don't know if all of you know that, but I always save up to buy these Cyber Monday specials where you get like 99 themes for $20, you know, something like that. Anyhow, I didn't do it this year, so I was sad at the end at midnight on Monday. I was all sad because I didn't get all the goodies I wanted, and that's just the way it went. Now, and then I got to tell you guys, I got all kinds of things to tell you. So here's what's going on. Okay, great. MJ and I have been having issues with connecting to the server. So he just sent me a smiley face and said we're live. So I'm going to keep going like we're live here. This is wonderful. I'm so glad to hear it. Okay, so first of all, I have an amazing guest tonight. His name is Dr. Paul Moller, and he's the flying car guy. I don't even know what else to say to all of you out there who listened to Art Bell for years and years and years. You know who this guy is. He's got the car that goes straight up and then flies around, and I wish I could be in one right now. As a matter of fact, I just assumed the other day when I was thinking about Paul being on the show tonight was that he probably has been leasing that car out to Santa Claus for the last umpteenth year since we heard him on Art Bell back in the day, folks. So I'm going to have to ask him about that. We'll have to see if Santa Claus has approached him and said, "Hey man, I want more flying cars. The reindeers are getting tired," you know, that kind of thing. Who knows? And I don't know if I can get in chat tonight. I'm going to try, folks, but we'll see what happens. Apparently we're having issues with GoDaddy and all those fun things. So, okay. Let's see. Now, I haven't been here for 2 weeks live, and so much has happened in 2 weeks. I feel like I've, grown more gray hair and shrunk about half an inch and just gotten older by the second. And my poor little menopausal brain is not doing so hot on everything that's happened to me. But I can tell you, 2 weeks ago, my good friend Plutronus couldn't make the show because he ended up in the hospital. And that's all I'm going to say about it for now, because hopefully when he's more recovered from his surgery, we'll get him back on the air here, because I know all of you were very concerned about him. We did put up a note saying that he had an emergency surgery procedure, and yeah, I was very concerned about him too. And I send all my love to Plutronus if he's listening tonight. Tron, if you're out there, I haven't called you because I've been so freaking busy. I can't even breathe right now. But yeah, all my love, and get better. And everybody here at Inception Radio Network sends their love too. I'm absolutely sure of it, because because as I found out, Plutonus is one of our favorite guests here at the California MUFON Radio show. So, yes, that was quite amazing to see how many people commented on him and sending him well wishes when we announced that he couldn't be on the show. So I had to cancel that evening. I had something else going on. I think I was heading off to UFO Symposium. Oh, okay. That's what happened. See, that's what happens. Oh, my God. And I think I told everybody what happened on 11/1 at my MUFON meeting, that I saw a giant triangle UFO, first one ever. And it was the day I decided I was going to quit this whole game, that it was the end for me, and having my conference and doing MUFON until January. And I was quitting, you guys. This is going to be the end of it. 2 years of radio shows. It was really the end for me, because financially things have been very, very bad since I started all this stuff. And I don't know what happens. It just seems to me that every time people get involved in this community, their means of living just dissipates. And I'm not sure why. It's a really strange phenomena, and I've never seen so many people so dedicated to getting the word out about the UFOs, the aliens, the conspiracies. I mean, you name it, the whole genre of everything that is kind of different than the mainstream. Those people just don't have any money, and it's not like they're unintelligent people. I mean, if these were a whole mass of, very low educated people, I would understand, but most of them have doctorates. I mean, it's crazy to me. And I sit around going, whoa, why is this happening? And I think there's an underlying kind of consciousness around this, where if people find out that you're one of those woo-woo characters out there, they don't seem to hire you very often. And it's very interesting to me. Anyhow, more on that on another day. But anyhow, so what happened was I went off to UFO Symposium, and I got to tell you folks, a friend called me on Wednesday night after I canceled the show and said, "What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "Oh, going to go to work, go do something." I was really depressed because I couldn't go to the symposium. And he said, "No, you're not. You're going to the symposium." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yep. Check your PayPal account. There's money in there for you to go." I was like, oh my God. It was like a gift from heaven. I was so happy. I was jumping up and down and clapping and the whole bit, and the cats were freaking out, running around the house. So anyhow, I packed like you wouldn't believe, like a mad woman, and I got in the car and I drove there on, I think I left Friday morning. I couldn't go until Friday. That's right. I had to work Thursday. I couldn't get out of it. So I drove there on Friday. It was 10 hours straight. It was great. I got there, met up with some friends, and I didn't work the whole weekend. It was the first conference in, oh my gosh, I think 5 or 6 years that I haven't worked to the point where I lose my voice, or my back hurts so bad I can't move, or, people are just sick of seeing me. Begging them for an interview, or let's see what else. Talking their ear off, because that's the other thing I do so well at 3:00 in the morning. So, anyhow, it was wonderful. I just sat in a chair in the vendor room, and I talked to anybody who came up and talked to me. And as a matter of fact, Jan Harzen missed me by 15 feet every day and about every 6 hours. I kept going, "There's Jan, I got to go talk to him." And then I'd turn my back, talk to the person I was talking to, and then he'd be gone. It was like he was like a ghost in the building. I couldn't find him half the time. I got to sit with Grant Cameron for like hours one night. It was so much fun. I just love Grant. He and I get along so well. We are just like, oh God, it's peas in a pod. And then I sat with Greg Campobasso and his friend, and Paolo Harris and George Norrie and Tom Danheiser, and oh my God, it goes on and on. Anyhow, I was just talking to everybody for, as little as 5 minutes is up to hours. So, had a great time, got to reconnect, got to re-energize myself about the whole thing. And I had seen the triangle UFO by the time I got there, so I got to share it with everyone, and they were so excited for me. I've never seen so many people so genuinely happy for me to see something, because I was always the one at all these conferences. I'd sit there and everybody would be talking about their alien abductions or their UFOs or whatever. Not that I want to be abducted, folks. Not that I want any of that going on in my life, because so many of my friends have just had some really terrific, PTSD experiences. But it was very interesting that they were all just happy for me, and I'm not sure I'm happy for myself, to be honest with you all. I'm kind of like, it's very cool that I saw it, but now I really know there's a secret space program because I did not get a feeling that it was an alien intelligence at all to it. But it goes back to my experiences with the helicopters and that night in Anaheim and the whole awakening experience that I had. You know, who knows if they didn't put that UFO that I thought I saw that night with the helicopter sound in my head. So I'm really starting to think this is a consciousness issue and problem and you know, just a conundrum that we're all going to have to only find out about when we die, maybe. I don't know. I'm getting to that point. I'm really beginning to wonder. Anyhow, Grant and I are working on that one. That's something we talk about constantly, is about consciousness and how it affects the people that maybe have different types of energy frequencies that can actually see other dimensions. We're thinking that maybe that's what's going on. But getting back to that spaceship I saw, I think it's ours. I think we do have a secret space program, and I think it's ours. And, you know, that's going to kind of lead us into what I'm going to talk to Paul about here in a few moments. I'm going to ask him if he's ever worked on an engine for a secret space program, but maybe he can tell us, maybe he can't. Who knows? It'll be fun. Okay. I got a couple things to say before we start with Paul, and that is that UFOCon is coming up at the end of March. It'll be March 28th and 29th in Santa Clara, California. The website is UFOCon2015.com. That's UFOCon2015.com. It will lead you back to the UFOCon 2013 page, but don't be scared. You are actually at the 2015 website. All of those speakers will be there in one way or another. Most of them will be live. I'd say there's 11 or 12 speakers that I've got lined up, and I think 11 of them are going to be live. So going to be great. We're going to have a sky watch. There'll be implant scanning. There'll be all kinds of things going on at this. It's going to be the biggest UFO conference in a few years here on the West Coast. So I hope you guys can make it if you can. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was the MUFON store's having a sale for Christmas. Come on, you guys. We got to get in there and buy some MUFON stuff. I went and bought 3 green glowing pens from MUFON, and I bought let's see, what else did I buy? I bought an ID card so that I can wear it around my neck and say I'm a MUFON director. So that was fun. I got that too. So anyhow, you should go there too. Check it out. The MUFON store at MUFON.com, MUFON.com. Okay, great. Well, now my guest has been patiently listening to me rambling on here, so I'm going to bring him on right now. Paul, are you with us?
I certainly am.
Oh, great. I am so happy to have you here. As I was telling you before the show started tonight, I've been listening to you since the Art Bell days in the 90s, and I have always been enthralled with your car. I just think it's the most amazing thing on the planet. And what bothers me the most, Dr. Moller, is that nobody else is, jumping on the bandwagon with me here. We need some people to come on in and get that car going because I want to be one of the first to fly it around.
Yeah,
how are we going to do that?
It's not an easy product to get support for. It's a little far out for a lot of people, and I suppose it's because we've heard so long about the flying cars coming that people tend to get a little jaded and don't realize that the only thing that's holding it back right now is the money to move from a demonstration vehicle to a production vehicle.
Exactly. And, everybody needs to go right now while we're doing the show tonight to Moller.com. That's MOLLER.com. I want everybody that's listening to my voice to check it out because I bet many of you haven't been there for a very long time. And the Skycar 200 and the Skycar 400 are absolutely gorgeous. And I can just see myself in a red dress driving that car around. The red Skycar, Dr. Moller, is like, what do they say with the men that are over 40 have like the midlife crisis and they drive red Ferraris?
Yeah,
pretty soon it'll be the red Skycar.
I certainly think that it will be an option that will make a lot of difference in people's lives as we get it into the marketplace. And of course, it's dependent on more than ourselves because we really need a highway in the sky to be completed. It's underway. It's used right now for commercial airliners, but it's really not expanded enough to serve, you and I. But that's going to change.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. That was one of my first questions actually tonight was what is with using sky space? I mean, how is that determined? Who's in charge of it? How are we going to be able to know where we can fly, where we can't? How are they going to manage all that? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, no, we've been working with the FAA on those kinds of things, not so much in a direct sense, but indirectly through some of our people who are quite close to the FAA. Really, the world of tomorrow is going to be, and it's not that far away to imagine where you get in a vehicle, or let's start off at the beginning. You get into your vehicle in your garage, you back it out, you drive it. It's just keep in mind this is an airplane that's roadable. It's not a car that flies. A car that flies is really not a practical. Well, you could make that happen, but it wouldn't be very efficient. You really want a very efficient aircraft, which is also capable of being driven on the road for some distance. So you get in your Skycar, you drive it to a vertiport or heliport, a few blocks or perhaps even a couple miles away, but on city streets. And there you code in your destination, and it takes you there. And I mean, that's not so imaginative. A lot of people don't realize that most of the commercial airliners, when they land today, are landing on autopilot. The pilot is not landing that aircraft.
Except for the one that landed in San Francisco and missed the runway.
Well, you're absolutely right, because a lot of people don't realize the reason they got in trouble is they were landing manually to keep the practice up, because they're required to do that periodically, and because they don't do it often enough, they become, out of practice. And so that crash was entirely due to the lack of practice. And we're going to have a system where people are going to be flying automatically, and skill won't be involved. You'll have what's called just a driver's license, but it'll be called probably a pilot certificate rather than a pilot's license. And it'll take you where you want, and it'll be all controlled within a highway in the sky.
Cool. I'm really looking forward to that day. I hope I'm around for it, Paul, because, this has been a long time in the thought process, and you've actually made it a reality. And, I hate to say it, but I'm very upset with our government. I'm upset with the auto industry. I'm upset with a lot of people out there for not supporting you and getting you to the point where we're actually in our flying cars already. And can you address why? Do you think the government is just against you, or they just want you to go away, or are they trying to help you? What's their role in this?
Well, we've built a lot of vehicles, as you probably know, that are unmanned for the military, almost every branch of the military, and we built these were not weapons; they were observation platforms or devices to go out and see if an airfield was damaged in an atomic attack or something like that, where they didn't want to send people out.
Sure.
But the government really hasn't been against this. It's a sort of benign ignorance that they're involved here. They just don't really understand the potential of the technology. And so our problem is the private industry doesn't have the enthusiasm for this kind of technology. They can't imagine it happening, and that's probably our biggest handicap.
Yeah. Jack, your good buddy Jack, which I highly respect. He's a great marketing guy. I love him to pieces already. He and I were discussing today that the one person that we think you need to become good buddies with is Elon Musk. Have you thought about?
You say that. I sent him an email today. He's a very busy man, so I'm hoping that I have the opportunity to talk to him. What I like about the fact that he recently said that Skycars are coming. Absolutely, yes. There is no doubt.
Yes.
Well, he didn't say Skycars; he said flying cars. But obviously, our vehicle is unique from other flying cars, so-called, because it takes off vertically. And if it can't take off vertically, it really doesn't have any future.
Absolutely, yeah. And so you sent him an email. Now let's just hope that he gets in his Tesla car and drives on up to Davis, because he's not far from you.
No, and it's interesting too, because I have enormous admiration for his ability to put together a outstanding team and end up creating an outstanding product. So clearly he's an extremely very clever individual who has a good understanding of where we're going.
Absolutely. And you do too. I mean, you have an amazing team around you, and you're an amazing designer. So, I mean, I just think it's like a marriage made in heaven for me. If you guys got together, the reality of that car could be happening a lot sooner than, I would I would hope.
No,
I'd still
there's
be alive for that one.
Yeah, I was going to say there's no technical hurdles at this point. We've demonstrated the ability to take off vertically, easily controlled, and maneuver. We haven't gone to the high-speed mode, but after all, that's very conventional. Once you start going forward fast, you're back to a sort of a conventional airplane, and that aerodynamics we understand very well. So it's really not necessary to do that. We've dealt with the part that historically is where people get in trouble.
Yeah, really. Well, I'm going to go off on a bunch of different tangents here, and I hope you don't mind me doing so, but I have so much fun doing it. I just, I love doing this. It's much more than, somebody sending me 10 questions and I answer them ask them on the air. But I was looking at is it your New Era 200?
Yes, the New Era, the bubble-shaped, bubble-dome vehicle similar to the Jetson vehicle.
Exactly. This thing looks like a UFO to me. I mean, what were you thinking?
We were blamed for that a few times along the road. Well, certainly when I was young, I was inspired by some of the things I read. Colonel Kehoe's book, which was one of the first ones I became aware of.
Right.
And over the years, I don't know if you knew this, but I gave a course in experimental college at University of California called the Social and Technical Implications of UFOs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
so you do have a UFO history here to play with tonight.
I was, one of my associates was Jacques Vallée.
Oh, wonderful.
So I've followed that, and we've done a lot of technical work in that area, sort of where you say you take the evidence and then you try to reverse engineer based upon what you find in terms of the literature and see if you can't come up with something that gives you some insight to what really is going on. And I work with a scientist called Frank Chilton at the Stanford Research Institute, and we came up with some very interesting conclusions over the years.
Do you mind sharing those with us, or can you? Or
Sure. There's nothing secret about it. One of the things that I found very interesting is that people are often reported as having sort of a paralysis. Well, not necessarily a paralysis if they're standing still, but if they try to move, they would get prickling sensations, and there would be some disturbance physiologically. And we determined that had to be an electromagnetic effect, and so we did a lot of research to see what level of magnetic power you needed to cause that effect. And it wasn't that high, and what happens is you cause eddy currents to occur in your body. When you move your body, you're really a part of a generator almost if you're in an electromagnetic field. And we got results that are very similar, and it was consistent with a case in Italy where a UFO flew over a town and knocked out most of the people in the town. And that would be expected if the energy field was high enough. The other thing that was very, very pronounced and proven was the fact that if you get into this kind of field and you're driving a car, for example, the first thing that's going to happen is your headlights could go out because of a thing called electromagnetic resistance, where in a magnetic field the resistance increases, and the first thing that it hits is it could be the ignition, and then the lights could be second, and then the third would be the starter, because these are all different components in a car that require different energies to be affected. And so you see many cases where that's exactly what happens in some order, similar to that, and in other cases where there's clearly an indication that something else is going on. For example, fluorescent lights don't necessarily go out, where tungsten filament lights will go out, because tungsten lights were not affected by the electromagnetic field.
Gotcha.
So pretty exciting stuff when I was at it, but I always kept it kind of undercover because I was worried that, with my reputation at the university, they may not think I was going in the right direction with my career.
Well, that's what happened to, do you remember John Mack?
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, yeah. That was tough on him. They're trying to make a movie about him right now, and I sure hope they are able to do so, because he was an extraordinary guy, and he really went out on a limb for the UFO alien community, and I got to give him kudos for that. But anyhow, getting back to the electromagnetic field that you were discussing, it seems to me that in most cases with alien abduction or sightings or whatever you want to call them, when people are driving a car, that the car would die, and that's exactly what you're talking about. But why is it just able to start up once that field is moved on?
Well, once it moves on, it's back to normal, right? The resistance is this resistance is only a factor, this increased resistance in the wiring is only a factor during the time the UFO is in close proximity to it. It depends how close, of course. It has to get really close before it can stop the starter, because that's the last thing to go.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Because, there's so many cases I remember from the 60s, 70s, 80s where they were doing that. And have you noticed something? I don't know if you keep track of the UFO community much at all, but in the last 20 years, all of the kind of car stoppings have ceased. There's very, very few reports anymore where a UFO goes over a car and causes it to have its starting problem or the engine
die.
die.
I have a neighbor that went through exactly that experience about 3 years ago.
Oh, really? God, well, did they
exactly
report it to anybody?
No, he reported to me because they know I've got an open mind about it. But no, most people, they won't. I had a machinist in the university who had a 30-foot away contact, he and his son, when they were fishing with a UFO over their heads. And he never even reported to his wife. He was a part-time deputy sheriff, and he was scared to death that it might mess up his reputation. So when I gave that course at the university, he felt open enough to come and tell me. But as I understand it, I'm the only person in his life that he ever told about it, where he was in such close proximity with something that scared the devil out of him, but was really just a very metallic, circular-shaped vehicle, as typically reported.
Wow. And what state was this in?
California, right, about 30 miles north of here at Knight's Landing.
Oh, yeah, I know where Knight's Landing is, sure, yeah. Well, very interesting stuff, and we've got about a minute now before the first break, so I'm going to just leave you with this, Paul. Oh, boy. What do you think it's a consciousness deal with the UFOs, or do you think they're actually 3D reality here in our atmosphere? And here's the second part to that whole thing. Do you think that they're ours or theirs? So this is going to get long and complicated as we go on here, I'm sure, unless you have just yes, no answers for me.
No,
what do you think?
That's quite a loaded question because there's so many elements to it. So I think we need a little more time to run on. But there's yes and no to everything you said.
Cool. Well, we're going to take a break here in a second, folks, and then when we get back, we're going to get into this long and complicated topic because I kind of want to pick Paul's brain about that, and then we'll get into his new engine that he's got that's only 65 pounds and putting out 204 horsepower. Absolutely unbelievable. So stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back after our first break here.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Just a reminder that Inception Radio Network is on Twitter. Follow us at I_R_N and keep up to date about who's on tonight, what interviews they'll be doing, who's guest spotting, what topics they'll be covering. Tweet to us, tweet about us, retweet topics to your friends, and most importantly, never miss a great show again. That's I_R_N.
Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Hello, IRN listeners. This is MJ saying hello and sharing an awesome secret I discovered. It's called DreamNuage.com. Fresh, raw, organic ingredients are used to create all their products. They are made in very small batches to ensure quality and freshness. Handmade in the USA, each product is created with care and with the finest organic ingredients. There are no preservatives, dyes, or chemicals in any product. Stop by Dream Nuage and relax. That's DREAMNUAGE.com. Simple, raw, organic.
Hello, I'm Pat Usford, inviting you to tune in to Epic Voyages every Monday evening at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Inception Radio Network. To find out more about Epic and how you can become a member, visit epicvoyagers.com.
EPIC is Extraordinary Phenomena Investigations Council, the forum for scholars, experts, and those fascinated by and involved in the study of ancient civilizations, conspiracies, cryptozoology, ETs, and UFOs, fringe science, the paranormal, and all manner of extraordinary phenomena. Please join EPIC as we examine the mysteries of the world and beyond on epicvoyagers.com. And for updates on the upcoming interactive video presentations, the latest news and discussion on the EPIC forum, as well as research, investigations, and membership opportunities. Epic Voyages program schedule is on the Inception Radio Network. Thank you for joining us.
Howdy, this is Joe Mars. I'm inviting you to tune in to Epic Voyages, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday nights, right here on Inception Radio Network. To find out more about Epic and how you can become a member, visit epicvoyagers.com. That's epicvoyagers.com.
Hello, everyone. Lorien Fenton here, host of the California MUFON Radio Show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. We're back here in the second part of the first hour with Dr. Paul Moller, and we're discussing flying cars, UFOs, flying UFOs, those type of things. And we're having a good time, and I'm really enjoying being back. I've been away from you guys for way too long. 2 weeks is almost too much, but I hate to say it, I will be gone for 2 weeks again here coming up, but I won't leave you guys empty-handed. I've got something in the works for you. I'm going to do another Christmas special this year, and I will be doing a New Year's Eve special, or I will be doing a live New Year's Eve special. I'm not sure which, but I think probably both recorded for you. And I will be doing a few more extra little Santa stocking stuffers into the club, into the IRN Insiders Club. So besides what you're going to get on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, you'll get even more in the Insiders Club. So that reminds me, everybody out there should be getting, onto the website, going to the sign up for a membership. I'm not on the website tonight, so I don't know where it's at, but I know it's in there somewhere where you can actually sign up to be part of the Insiders Club. So check it out, become part of the Insiders Club, and then you'll get those extra tidbits that I'll be recording for you guys for Christmas and New Year's, okay? I'm actually thinking about driving up to Oregon to see my family, which might be kind of fun. So I don't know. Going to see your family over the holidays can be fun for about 24 hours, as we all know. Anyhow, so there you go. It's like that fish rule, 3 days and you're out. It's that way. Anyhow, I just wanted to tell Paul I was so upset to find out that he had an open house in Davis, right near where I live, that I could have gone to see the cars, and maybe he would have flown me around, or who knows? He might have said, "Lorien, you weigh too much. We can't put you in there right now." Who knows? But it would have been fun, and I missed it, and I was so upset. And the reason why, and I think most of you know this, is that after the weekend after the UFO symposium, where I actually took a vacation for the first time in my life in ages, I got on a plane and headed to Dallas, Texas, because I was asked to help produce the JFK conference, the JFK assassination conference put on by Judith Ferry Baker, Chris Milligan, and myself. And it was just a wild, wild weekend. The whole conspiracy about JFK, and we all know now Oswald didn't do it. So I hope all of you out there have an open mind. And when the DVDs come out for that you actually pay attention to it, because I'll tell you, folks, if you're my age, around 57, I was 6 when he was shot. It changed everything, and we know that. Those of us who are alive, even if you were only 4 years old, you knew it changed everything, because it sent kind of a shockwave through our souls, just like 9/11 did. And I think that the shockwave was through our heart as a country when JFK died, and I believe for 9/11 it was a shockwave through our consciousness, because I think they were using that as a mind control device to keep us all compliant and let us think that there's terrorism all around us. And you know what? I'm going to ask Dr. Paul about that. What do you think about 9/11? I didn't think I was going to go there with you, Paul, but I just realized that'd be a good question to ask you, because...
Well, I honestly don't have enough knowledge to have an opinion on it, quite frankly.
Oh, but you know what?
It's a traumatic thing for the country, but I really never got into a level of knowledge that would allow me to comment seriously about it.
Oh, okay. Do you think that now, we were just talking on the break about your vehicle that can go up to windows, called the Firefly. Do you think that if
it would have been a great vehicle for that day, for sure.
Oh, yeah. See, now again, folks, this is why we need to help Dr. Moller, because the problem we've got is this man has an amazing invention here. It's called the Firefly. And I'm just going to read to you really quickly just the first sentence here. It's about, over the past 30 plus years, Moller International and its predecessor companies have been working on the development of the technologies required for a new class of vehicle called the Volanters. It's called the M200G, New Era.
The New Era, yes.
And it's the first of the Volanters to enter the market as a vehicle takeoff and landing, fast, low-cost, personal, recreational, or utility vehicle. And when I say utility vehicle, Dr. Paul's going to tell you right now what it can do to help people out.
Yes, it's really a derivative of the Jetson, which was our Jetson-looking vehicle, which we call the New Era, and we moved it into a practical platform, meaning that you have a pilot sitting in the back, you have a significant area where people can enter it, perhaps offload it from a building which is on fire, because we can go right up to that building, right up to the window, so to speak, and pick people up in a way that really isn't possible today. That's one application. There are many others, of course, such as border patrol, rescue in general, utilitarian, where a farmer could use something like this to get around on his farm. There's many practical ways it could be used. It's small. If you operate it, 20 feet from the ground, you don't even have to worry about the FAA or the DOT because it's classified as a ground effect machine. But of course, it's not fast like the Skycar, but it's very practical.
Wow, this thing's just phenomenal. And, like I said, it just upsets me even more that the government isn't helping you with this. I just don't even understand it.
The government has supported me a lot in the unmanned vehicles because they can see the use of that. But really, I have more fault, in my opinion, from the lack of imagination from the private industry.
Oh, really? Okay.
They should. I mean, I raised a lot of money, but it's been an incredible struggle, and I got to give a great deal of credit to a number of people who've come along with me and supported me, but it's been a really war to raise capital for this kind of technology.
Yeah, I do understand.
In other words, you're not going to make money the next day. You really have to be committed for some time, and I have a wonderful group of stockholders who have allowed me to raise a great deal of money, but not enough to take something like this into the marketplace.
Exactly. Now, Paul, if you were actually going to work on this with somebody else, let's say you did end up at Tesla Motors, do you think this would be an affordable option for people? Because, Tesla Motors, $100,000 for a car, really? I mean, I can't afford that.
Well, again, the cost of a car or an airplane or a boat or anything else is a volume-dependent number. So if you take the cars at the turn of the century, you paid probably equivalent to $80, $250,000 for them. Henry Ford came along, and in a relatively short period of time, they were selling for $400. So
exactly.
If we can produce our aircraft in the numbers that one model of Ford does, not all of the Ford company, but one model that gets up into the area of 100,000 to 200,000, this vehicle is remarkably inexpensive, really theoretically cheaper than an automobile for many, many reasons. Whether it'll ever get there in my lifetime, I might question, but it'll get there, and it'll be an option to the car. It won't be replacing the car. The car probably will be dominated by the electric car, but it will be a clear alternative to the auto industry.
Sure, especially I think cars will become a short-range vehicle, short-range tiny vehicle with battery operated, like you were saying. And I think the flying car will be for the longer commutes or the interstate travel or those type of things. Am I projecting correctly, do you think?
You're absolutely right. Yes, exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it'd be very interesting to see. I kept hoping that our cities would start expanding their ability to have those type of cars flying into them. But, I just don't ever see you being able to fly those around in San Francisco unless this may become a computer issue too, do you remember the movie The Fifth Element?
Oh, yes. Right.
Oh my God, the flying cars going around those buildings just scared the heck out of everybody, I think, watching that. But
it's achievable. It's really quite achievable. It sounds to many people like something from another world, maybe from an alien world, but it's not. It's very fundamental equipment. Now, what you mentioned earlier is the key element. We developed this engine, and really where we've been delayed in the last few years is not getting enough power out of the engine to be able to carry a practical we can carry a payload, a decent payload for a decent distance, but really to be really viable, it needed to carry a larger payload for a longer distance. And that recent breakthrough where we've been able to now produce over 3 horsepower per pound, which, by the way, is a world record. Nobody has come close to that in any other engine worldwide. That's really made all the difference in the world. It's given us the opportunity to take this vehicle to the next level.
And it's interesting. Now, this company is called Freedom Motors that we're talking about now, correct? And this is one of your subsidiaries?
Yeah, it's a spin-out from Moller. Moller still has a agreement when they license the technology that they will get 50% of the revenues from Freedom Motors. And, of course, they're very interested in Freedom Motors building engines for the Skycar. So it's really, in a sense, a related company where we share in the future growth. But what's happened is once the world became a little aware of our engine, it has now become a very exciting prospect for hybrid cars, motor scooters. We've just completed the introduction of our engine into an automobile and into a motor scooter. And I say motor scooter, people think, well, that's an interesting application. They don't realize that over half the engines in the world next year are going to go into motor scooters. That's 75 million motor scooters, or $100 billion in motor scooters for places like Latin America, Africa, the Far East, any number of places. It's the main means of transportation in many of these places.
Absolutely, and for a good portion of Europe as well. So
that's correct.
Yeah, mind-boggling stuff here. And I noticed that it's a rotary-powered engine. Am I thinking Mazda?
Yes, you are. It's our product is quite different from Mazda's as far as some of the details, but fundamentally, Dr. Felix Wankel, a genius in Germany, who's devoted his lifetime, perhaps much like I have, to creating this incredible engine. And without that engine, I would not have a Skycar. So in a sense, he's as responsible for the Skycar as I am. Without his engine, it wouldn't be possible to do what we do.
Absolutely. Is he still alive by chance?
No, unfortunately, I never had a chance to meet him, which I regret very much because that would have been a wonderful experience.
Yeah. An amazing mind that guy had, I'll tell you. Anyhow, I'm just fascinated by this whole website. I've just been, ever since I brought it up earlier this afternoon, I've been perusing around in it. I've just been going crazy looking at all this new stuff. I just didn't even know it was happening with you. So I'm very excited for you. Okay. Now that we've talked a little bit about the cars and the engines and all that, I would like to go back to the UFO courses that you were, or what was it that you were teaching? It was like a workshop or something?
Well, it was, the title of the course was the Social and Technical Implications of UFOs, and I had a political scientist who was giving the course with me. And the interesting thing is when you give a course like this, and you probably more than anybody would know how many people come sort of out of the woodwork that I've never really been, and again, you're going back many, many years in this, so today perhaps things are a little bit more open than they were then, but when I was doing this back in the late 60s, this was not a subject that you did very much with the university. It was impressive that Davis was so experimental. They would let me give a course like this, which I did more or less out of curiosity. It was a fun thing to do, and it got me the opportunity to meet a lot of very interesting people like Jack Valet. One of the reasons that Jack came to visit me with his wife was because he was interested in the fact that we would, do a course like this. And so it otherwise I never met somebody like Jack, which was a very impressive and enjoyable experience.
Do you have any stories about Jacques that you could tell us?
Well, the thing about Jack that's most significant, I think, and that may have changed today because, again, my knowledge at the academic level, it goes back a long ways, but I was always so impressed by his very metaphysical approach to it, where he actually went in there and looked at it at a level that very few other people were looking at it. And it was really food for thought because it was very different from anybody else. And anybody who doesn't know Jack knows he was an incredibly a well-trained scientist. I mean, an extremely bright individual. And so the fact that he took on the UFO issue, gave it a lot of credibility that it wouldn't otherwise have. But
absolutely,
that was important to have the opportunity to meet people like him.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. I've met him several times through Sergio Lube and the Ions group here that is right next to me. Practically, I could throw a stone at it. It's right down the street from me in northern Nevada. At the old World College. It's called Ions. I'm sure you know about Ions.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I mean, they have a very impressive, I guess you'd call it, magazine or a report that they periodically put out that really stretches the imagination.
Oh, yes, definitely. Dr. Dean Radin is kind of the head of the science department there, and they're very much into consciousness, UFOs, all kinds of things like that, and alien mind, and, I just love going up there. Thank God they're in my backyard.
Yeah, great.
I got a good place to go to, so that's good. Okay, gosh, I have so many things I want to ask you. It's like my brain is just seizing up like an engine without fuel or oil. Okay, let's see. Oh, I know what it was. So you were teaching this course, and we were talking about consciousness. I had some questions for you before the break, and that was if you were dealing with UFOs and aliens at the time, back in the day with Jacques Vallée, doing this course. What was your take on all the people at the course and their descriptions of being, abducted by aliens or just seeing a UFO?
Well, none of the people that I was in my course were abductees, but there were certain very close calls in the sense that people had close encounters with vehicles, and that was exciting because obviously that was my first-hand experience with people who had that. So that was a very exciting part of the course from my point of view. My goal was always to see if I could reverse engineer the technology, since there is a lot of specific physical evidence about this eddy currents causing shock movements and anything else similar to that. And we just took it, said, okay, this is the evidence that we know exists repeatedly. What kind of electromagnetic propulsion system could create that? And that led us in a very interesting direction. And that, of course, gave us a lot more confidence that there's a lot going on out there. I think your earlier question was, are these vehicles primarily alien, or are they earthbound in their origin? And
right.
Of course,
right.
I don't have an answer for the number. I think there was a time when they were virtually all alien, and I think there's a probability that there's things going on today. But the American government is not very good at hiding secrets, so I'm not certain how much is really going on. I think perhaps there has been reverse engineering of some of these vehicles. The triangular vehicle, I think, is a reverse engineered version. It could be original, but it could also be reverse engineered, which is certainly possible.
Yes, I agree. And have you ever heard of a vehicle called the ATV? Back in the day, supposedly, here's the story I heard from Mark McCandlish, who's been on my show several times, or at least once on this show. He said that his buddy back in the late 80s, I believe it was, or mid 80s, was taken to an air show in Southern California at an Air Force base. And there was a special hangar where dignitaries and Congress people and senators and the whole bit were taken into, and he got in there accidentally with his buddy who was a retired colonel or something in the Air Force. Okay, so they're at this base, they're watching, and the guy says, hey, I got to go over to this other hangar, come on with me. He shows up, and they're showing all these people, all these dignitaries and high profile people, these American-made UFOs that they are now flying around. Have you heard anything about this?
No, and I really wouldn't know what to make of it. I've been so surprised sometimes by what is out there, apparently, but doesn't always end up being what it's made out to be. So I'm a little cynical, but at the same time, could very well have happened. Usually the issue of the UFO thing is so shut down by the government. I mean, if there ever was an effort to keep something very, very private, this is it. And as a result, it would be surprising to me that it could happen that way, just because of the major effort that's made to keep this all relatively quiet.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to my second, the first part of that question to you was, do you believe that it's an interdimensional or consciousness type of encounters that we're having, or if they're actually 3D reality ships that are here? And you kind of answered that for me.
Jack would be the best one to ask that, because that, of course, is where he spends a lot of time dealing with that particular issue. I'm not up to his speed on something like that.
Yeah, well, it's very nice, Paul, that you're actually open enough to talk about this, because I got to tell you, I've had some very amazing scientists that I've had on both of my radio shows, and a lot of them just won't even touch the topic with me. And so I'm just very happy that you're doing that. And I want to thank you for doing that, because obviously you're not afraid anymore about what people would think about you for doing that. And that's wonderful. And having taught a course in it too, that helps. So, it helps that scientific minds like yours are open to the possibility that it could be many different levels and many dimensions of, the answer to the big enigma puzzle here.
Right. It's clearly an extremely complex subject. It's gone through evolution over and over again, and continues to be. I mean, I when I go and see one of the UFO shows today, I'm amazed at the quality of some of the sightings, far beyond Project Blue Book, as far as what the kind of things that are being documented by numerous people. So to deny this is probably just something where people don't have the opportunity to really see the evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. Cool. Redshift just put up a picture, and I don't know. It's the hover bike. Do you know about this hover bike?
Well, there's a hoverboard. This is something you stand on, and it lifts you off the ground a short distance, and then you can sort of go on it as a hoverboard. But there is a kind of a hover bike too, which is something that operates close to the ground, and this is something that could be done for practical reasons, but it's not something that leads to it's a good toy, but it would not be possible for a number of reasons to have this as a practical means of getting around.
I gotcha. Yeah, because we're looking at right now in the chat room. If everybody would like to join us in there, we've got the chat room up and running, and everything's good in there. As previously we said, we were having trouble. Well, we're all in there now. There's about 10 of us in there, so we made it. We made our way in, and pictures are showing up with this hover bike, and it looks like the guy's straddling it, and it looks just like you said, Paul. It looks as if it would just be good for just driving around in, basically like a bike. I mean,
having fun with it, yes, and
and
because it's operating close to the ground, relatively close to the ground, then it doesn't violate any laws. So you can operate it without, getting anybody excited. Any of the FAA, which are always looking for something to get excited about.
Yeah, when we come back from our next break, which is going to happen in just a few minutes, I want to start talking much more about that, because we've got to figure out a way to get to a point where the people that are listening to the show understand what it is you exactly need from everybody. Besides, I know we need money. I understand that. But is there anything else they can help you with? Is there somebody they can write to? Is there, Congress people we can get to? Is there another corporation besides Tesla Motors? Is there anything else we could do to help you? Do you need some more lithium for a battery? I mean,
yeah.
What can we do to get this thing really rolling here? Because I'm telling you, I'm 57. I want to see this thing happen before I croak. I mean, I'm getting desperate.
The same boat, and I'm not getting any younger, so clearly this is something that I would like to see happen. And we're going to move in that direction, but it's been a big struggle. Clearly, it's been an extremely big struggle to make it happen.
Yeah. We're going to have to figure out something to help you out. That's all there is to it. I hope my friend Mark's listening tonight, because I'm going to have to talk to him about you. I've got a friend who's working on a project, and who knows? We'll see what happens. Okay, and you know what? I have a question for you from the chat, but we're going to do that when we get back from the break. It's an interesting question. You may not even have an answer or know who they're talking about, but we'll find out. And then I'm going to ask you when we come back from the break, have you ever dealt with MUFON? It sounds like you were with NICAP, but MUFON is another...
I followed MUFON. I don't think I was involved with any of the principals in it, although I believe on a couple of occasions I ran into people, because there was a time when I went to a few conferences.
Oh, great. Well, hey, we've hit that break time, so when we get back, we'll maybe talk about those conferences. Okay, everybody, stick with us. Another hour with Paul, and we'll be right back.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Hello, IRN listeners. This is MJ saying hello and sharing an awesome secret I discovered. It's called DreamNuage.com. Fresh, raw, organic ingredients are used to create all their products. They are made in very small batches to ensure quality and freshness. Handmade in the USA, Each product is created with care and with the finest organic ingredients. There are no preservatives, dyes, or chemicals in any product. Stop by Dream Nuage and relax. That's DREAMNUAGE.com. Simple, raw, organic.
Hello, I'm Pat Usford, inviting you to tune in to Epic Voyages every Monday evening at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Inception Radio Network. To find out more about Epic and how you can become a member, visit epicvoyagers.com.
EPIC is Extraordinary Phenomena Investigations Council, the forum for scholars, experts, and those fascinated by and involved in the study of ancient civilizations, conspiracies, cryptozoology, ETs, and UFOs, fringe science, the paranormal, and all manner of extraordinary phenomena. Please join EPIC as we examine the mysteries of the world and beyond on epicvoyagers.com. And for updates on the upcoming interactive video presentations, the latest news and discussion on the EPIC forums, as well as research, investigations, and membership opportunities. Epic Voyages program schedule is on the Inception Radio Network. Thank you for joining us.
Howdy, this is Joe Mars. I'm inviting you to tune in to Epic Voyages, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday nights, right here on Inception Radio Network. To find out more about Epic and how you can become a member, visit epicvoyagers.com. That's epicvoyagers.com.
Hello, everyone. Lorien Fenton here, host of the California MUFON Radio Show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton, and we're here with Dr. Paul Moller, and we're having a very interesting discussion behind the scenes. And now we're going to have to bring it forth and talk to you guys about what we just talked about. So, very interesting stuff going on with Dr. Moller's company, with the flying cars and the whole bit. And he and I were just discussing on the break about the fact that I think we're hitting a tipping point. I think Dr. Moller was just so far ahead of his time that you guys out there, all of you people, including myself, are finally catching up with what he's doing. And I think maybe our government, the FAA, all the people involved in this whole equation, maybe they're just starting to get their act together with the reality that he's not going away and the flying car is going to become a reality. So this is something we all need to help Dr. Moller with. You know, I get on board with a lot of projects, and this is one of my favorite things in the whole world. As I said, I'm 57 years old. The Jetsons were a big influence in my life, and I've always thought that Dr. Moller's car was just the coolest thing since sliced bread. So, and those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about the sliced bread, you need to go out and take a bakery course. So there you go. But anyhow, so Paul, tell them about, what we can do besides just the fact that you need money. If they invest in your company, this is the time to do it, right?
Well, certainly from their personal point of view, because of the delays, primarily delays due to the ability to raise the amount of capital to put on a very extensive press flight before the international press. over 750 press people signed up to attend our first press flight. So we know
wow.
the exposure is going to be incredible. But we really have to go through a bunch of fairly expensive flight tests prior to that because there's so many risk elements in this technology that you really have to have everything in order. If something goes wrong during that test flight, you've lost the pilot probably, you've certainly lost the vehicle, and probably lost the company. So the risk is quite substantial in this field. In fact, this is a scary statement, but in the late 60s and mid-70s, there were at least 50 projects underway, vertical takeoff projects around the world. And today, there is very, very few. We have the V-22, which is developed. There's a BA-609, which is a vertical takeoff aircraft. And then there's our technology. There is nothing that's really going on. And one of the reasons they got out is because they lost a lot of pilots during the startup program because they didn't have the stability systems we have today. They didn't have the power plants we have today. Certainly, electronics has become much more reliable. They didn't have the lightweight materials to make it practical. And they certainly didn't have our engine, which is absolutely essential. So
yes,
that part of the world has changed a lot, and that's to our benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that just reminded me. What about those horrible tragedies we had recently at NASA and the Galactic Space Flight, I think it was, or something. Can you comment on that a little bit?
Well, this vehicle, anything that takes off vertically, including rockets, don't have a fail mode that's very likely to bring about a good result. There's an old adage that says that there's nothing comes down faster than a vertical takeoff aircraft upside down, and it's really true that it's a very unforgiving technology, and there's always what you call a burn-in period.
Yeah,
much like electronics, where you really got to have some experience, and that experience costs money. You have to spend a lot of time flying the vehicle, and we've never had the capital to bring us through that period sufficient for us to go before the international press and show them what our vehicle can do. But that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. It's going to happen this coming year. We're going to have that press flight, and anybody who is interested in becoming a stockholder, this would be the year because there's going to be some very big changes in our.
Well, now that you've got the engine worked out, I think this is just absolutely phenomenal. People really need to visit the website. I can't emphasize it enough. Everybody out there that's hearing my voice right now, go to Moller.com. That's MOLLER.com, and check it out, because especially the investment page, because if I'm getting any money for Christmas, that's where it's going, folks. This is going to be my big investment for the year. It may only be 50 cents, but heck, it's going to be all I've got, because I really want to see this happen. This is just going to be so phenomenal. And even more so than that, are we going to be able to buy the new era 200 as well?
Yeah, that's considerably cheaper to start with. It's still expensive simply because we're going to be producing them by hand. I mean, truly by hand, with a lot of hand labor. It will cost quite a bit of money to automate the production line, but ultimately that's what's got to happen, just like Henry Ford. And then they'll have, this vehicle will be probably your rental vehicle, quite frankly, because there's no reason to own this. We're talking about renting cars all over the place today, or picking cars up with these new ways of getting a car at any place you want very inexpensively. The Skycar is perfect for that. We can have 1 to 6 passenger vehicles, and you can rent any one. And again, you don't have to be a trained pilot. You're just taking yourself from point A to point B, and it could be from San Francisco to New York, because we've got a 750-mile range, so you'd have to stop 3 times along the road, but you could do it at a gas station. You can stop down and fill up at any local gas station and go on your way. So it will be something that people will probably rent rather than own for the most part. And they'll be available, as I said, in various sizes. So if you're a single person going somewhere, you'd get what we call a Skycar 100 or a 200. We haven't postulated a 300, but that's certainly possible. A 400 and a 600. We have a 900, which is a 9-passenger vehicle, and that's going to make a lot of sense, I think, in the world of transportation.
How fast can they go?
Well, they can go up to 350 miles an hour, but you would do that you wouldn't go that fast, because that's like, you'd be burning twice as much gas as you really want to. 300 miles an hour at 25,000 feet is a efficient cruise speed, and 200 miles an hour at sea level is an efficient cruise speed. But you can certainly go 300 miles an hour at sea level, but you'd be burning, as I said, at least twice as much fuel.
Right. So what you expect is about 200 miles per hour.
At sea level, right. If
yeah.
Where you're going.
Yeah.
And the height you operate at was going to depend very much on where you're going. If you're going from Sacramento to San Francisco, you probably never go above 5,000 feet. And so you'd be doing it at 200 miles an hour, which is about, 15 minutes or a little bit more. But if you're going from San Francisco to L.A., you'd go up to 25,000 just because you can go a lot faster, 50% faster, and still get the same mileage.
Great. Now, as I look up into the sky, I see Oakland Airport, San Francisco Airport, and I could barely see San Jose's landings, but that sky is full of traffic all the time where I live in Marin. I can just see it going on constantly. What are we going to do when we get our Skycar up and these guys are trying to land their jumbo jets and we're all in their flight path? How are we going to deal with that? Are we just going to go around them all together?
You won't be in their flight path. Remember, that highway in the sky is called HITS, will be totally automated. And you'll have redundancy in computers and other technologies that you'll be shocked at the ability to keep aircraft separated and be comfortable with that. It's a different world. I know we imagine the world we're flying around. The last thing I want to do is be up in the air with some of these crazies, even on the ground as they behave. So, yes,
exactly.
We're going to avoid that. But that is such a small step in the overall spectrum of where we're going with this, because we can do that easily. And I don't say we, I mean America can put that highway in the sky in place very inexpensively, relatively speaking. You think of what it costs you to build a freeway, and you have to maintain it for 100 years. You can put a highway in the sky overnight, and if you put everything into your computer, you've got a new highway going somewhere. That
absolutely. So what you're basically telling me is it's GPS satellite related transportation is what it comes down to.
Yes, it's a little bit more complex than the
I'm sure.
GPS, but it's called differential GPS, which means where you can, with your GPS today, you can get, within a few feet, maybe a few yards in some cases of where you want to be. You certainly know if you're going on the wrong highway. But with differential GPS, you can be within 2 inches of knowing where you should be.
Oh my God! So
that there'll be no surprises. You can be absolutely controlled and be comfortable in the operation.
Now, there will be a manual override for emergencies, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Although I think again, if you take my vision on this, even the emergency would already be pre-programmed in it. You imagine anybody who's really not trained. Keep in mind, you're getting into this. You today, as you are, without virtually any training, going to be in this. So really, why could you do something better than the computer could do? The computer will have every algorithm in it dealing with every possible, and it may not have one that's appropriate, but if it doesn't have it, you probably wouldn't have it either. So you're going to leave this to the computer to decide what's going to go on, and it's a much safer way to deal with the unknown.
Exactly. Yeah. But one last question, because I have claustrophobia and I hate flying. Okay, so getting me in a plane's a whole experience unto itself. Now, if I got into this and I was alone in it, so I could handle the claustrophobic part, because if I'm with another human, I can't deal with it. And I started thinking about all the horrible things that could go wrong. What you're basically telling me is that if an emergency happens, there'll be an override with another computer programming issue that will take over and land the car safely, and I won't have to worry about anything. That's what I'm hearing.
We actually, interesting enough, we have 4 computers talking to each other. They're all programmed by different people, so you're not going to have the same mistake in one computer transmitted to the other. They're all programmed. They're talking to each other, and if one of those computer programs doesn't agree with the other 3, it gets kicked out of the system. So you're now down to 3. If one of those disagrees, which is a very, very low probability it would happen, then you're down to 2. And when you're down to 2, you better get on the ground. But up to that point, you've got lots of options.
Great. And this leads me to a question from the chat room, Paul. This is funny. Durhuff in the chat wants to know, does he have an ejection seat built into that thing? So there's your question.
No, that leads to a kind of it was kind of a macabre type of story, but this issue that I mentioned earlier of people getting killed in vertical takeoff aircraft led the military to put an ejection seat in there. But of course, you can imagine what happens. You came off the ground, something went wrong, the vehicle turned upside down and fired both people into the ground.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is not the right direction, obviously. A French plane did something similar. It didn't fire them into the ground, but it fired them off to the side, and they got badly injured. So, no, we have parachutes built into the vehicle, which would be appropriate above 200 feet. And we have 8 engines, which means that we can run, an engine can fail, a computer can fail. We have dual parachutes. We don't even believe that one parachute is enough in the sense that redundancy is the byword in our design. So we're dealing with probabilities are incredibly
minuscule.
low.
Yeah, minuscule. Yeah, I love that. And, I knew you were doing that already. I just had to get my point out there because, people are afraid, and they have a right to be. I don't blame them. I'm afraid driving my car, Paul. I tell you. And it's not just me.
You should
be. It's the people around me.
People who don't drive very well out there.
Absolutely. When I moved to California from Oregon and I had grown up in, I had driven in snow, I'd driven in ice, I'd driven in rain all the time. And I got here and it rained and they were killing each other. I was like, what is going on? I think, and this is just another political belief on Lorien's part here, is that all kids should be going through vocational training nowadays in high school. That's number one. And number two, they need to learn how to drive cars in all types of weather, and not just for an hour one time, like for a whole weekend. Go out there and drive your car around in the ice and snow and learn what it's like, so you don't go sliding off the road and killing people.
You're going to have Google, automated cars. Which, by the way, you can imagine if you can make a car so that it can drive itself, that is at least an order of magnitude more difficult than making a Skycar to drive itself. So they're already on the path of that, and scientifically they believe that that's inevitable, that you'll have these self-driving cars. So I'm comfortable that if they can perform that, we don't have a problem.
Well, that's true. And, they are testing those over in Europe. I think it was Sweden and Germany. Am I mistaken on that? Where you get in line.
The Bay Area, of course, too.
Oh, they are. Now, I didn't know that because I read about the Germany and Sweden experiments where you get in line behind a semi-truck that it has automatic control of, like, the train of cars behind it.
Well, that you can do, and that's been done for some time. But what Google has done is actually completely automate. So this thing deals with people, passengers. It deals with everything that you do all the time. Drives anywhere in any city under all conditions. And I think it's probably inevitable that it might be, 20 years away. It's going to be further away than our Skycar because the Skycar is so much simpler to be able to be controlled precisely as distinct from that kind of environment on the ground.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't know all that. See, that's how out in the dark I've been about this. Well, we got another great question for you from the chat room, and I think this one's from MJ himself. It says, how well will the car run in bad weather, such as bad rainstorms or snowstorms? Will it be just like any other airplane?
It's like a commercial airliner. There's a thing called wing loading, which is how much lift, how many pounds per square foot of wing area you use. But because our aircraft don't have to fly at low speed, they have very small wings. Therefore, when you get into a very adverse environment, you have the high wing loading of a commercial airliner, which means you can go into some really messy conditions and still fly through it, where a light plane would be turned upside down. So we're much better off than a light plane. We're much more comparable to a fighter aircraft in terms of our ability to move. But of course, under some conditions, you would just, the beauty is a vertical takeoff aircraft. It doesn't matter if the weather gets bad enough, you just go down and land. You don't have to find a runway, and that's kind of important.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. And Carol raises a very interesting question in chat. I would never thought about this, Carol. Thank you. She says, what are the acoustics like? Because she's looking at it and the engines are so close to the passenger area.
Well, we use a thing called mutual noise cancellation, which is very interesting. You have a set of frequencies, which clearly what you hear in your ears. What we do is generate an anti-noise. In other words, we analyze that frequency spectrum. We then phase shift the frequencies, and it means you go through a number of frequencies, you phase shift it, and so they cancel out each other. That's really critical because it's true. You're dealing with an aircraft in an environment that usually has, very, very quiet cars. And
yes.
So mutual noise cancellation is a very important part of our technology. We didn't invent this. It's been around for some time, but it's probably going to be more important in our vehicle than it's ever been in the past.
Absolutely. That's so cool. What about a stereo system? Are we going to get that?
You can have anything you want. That would be the least difficult part of this whole business.
Great. Wonderful. Let's see. We got a few more minutes here before our last break, and everybody in chat is making comments that the car looks like the one on Tatooine that the young Skywalker used to drive around, or the one in the race. Oh, I see. That was Star Wars 1 or something like that. So did you get your ideas from Star Wars, or did they get it from you?
No, we've often been accused of originating the Jetson vehicle, but not these other vehicles. The fact is that function follows form, and form follows function. If you're building an aerodynamic vehicle that has very low drag, which an aircraft needs to have because it flies very fast, then you're going to end up with something that's pretty sexy. It's just a simple fact of the way it turns out. You'd have to be a fool to make it messy, and it certainly wouldn't operate well if it did. So our vehicles, we do certain things with aesthetics in mind, but not contrary to nature, which demands that everything be that the airflow very, very evenly around us. We don't have rear view mirrors, for example. You can imagine if we had a rear view mirror, this aircraft would probably go 20 miles an hour slower.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So it's a very, very clean design from beginning to end for its ability to go fast.
Are you going to be putting kind of a rear view camera on it so that people can see when they're actually on the street?
Yeah, you would do that because you have to have something when you're working it on the street. It has to have complete surround vision, which again, as I said, is not difficult in today's world.
Yeah. Oh, Carol, the girl who asked the question about the sound system or the acoustics, we were just thinking, her and I here in chat, that possibly Jetson's Greatest Hits should be playing in the car. And, I just thought about this, Paul. Maybe we should have the robot from the Jetsons be the voice for the car. I would love to have that. Oh, God, that'd be fun.
Well, we have a wonderful, if you've seen the Jetson flying, we have a wonderful musical piece in the background that really, we got the permission from the writer.
Oh, wonderful! That's great.
If you go to the Jetson and turn on the music, you're going to love that combination.
Oh, great. God, that's so much fun. Great, cool. Well, we got a couple more minutes here before the break, and I'm just trying to figure out what direction I want to take you next because you're so full of information. I don't even know where to go. Is there anything you wanted to talk about that we haven't touched upon? That I'm sure there is. I'm looking at the website. There's 20 more things here we could talk about. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, I'm happy wherever you go, really, because
okay.
We've done so many. I mean, probably we might even spend a bit more time on the engine because I think people will be fascinated with the fact that I can hide an engine in the palm of my hand that could run a lawnmower. So
seriously?
Yes, absolutely. And so we've got with our engine today it's this 65-pound engine, and you can see a picture of it if you go to as people do when they go to our website. They'll see one of our engineers holding the engine in his hands. 204 horsepower, weighing 65 pounds. And this engine is not much bigger than a large watermelon.
It just blows my mind every time I see something like this. So is that going to be the future of cars? I mean, are we just going to end up having that size engine in it and all these little...
I think it is. I think absolutely it's the future of hybrid cars. We're not going to be the only producer, but at the moment we're really the lead producer of. We've got at least 4 different hybrid car companies that we're discussing use of it. Because again, today the Chev Volt, for example, the engine that they're using is as big as the original engine, and so
exactly.
And all of a sudden, you can take an engine that you can almost fit in the glove compartment that does the same job, and that's going to make a big change for many different things, including you see all these drones, these aerobots flying around, or whatever you want to call them, these unmanned vehicles that are so big. Again, we can put an engine, a tiny engine in that can carry a real payload. Electric vehicles or electric drones can't carry a decent payload, but we can. We can actually lift a man up if you want to bring him from point A to point B and put him back down again with some of our vehicles that we built for the Air Force and the Navy.
Wow, unbelievable. That engine is really remarkable. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from the break. Like I said, everybody, you need to get to Moller.com. That's MOLLER.com. Check it out because it's so much fun and very informative. He's got a gallery up there of some amazing stuff. He's got interviews with other talk show hosts, which I just love dearly. And you can listen to everything that everybody has to ask him. My show's a little off the cuff, so I don't ask the intelligent scientific questions, but I do ask the fun ones. So there we go. And I'll always get my people in chat to ask the really good questions. So there we go. We've got them to rely on here the rest of the show, Paul. Okay, folks, stick with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes with our last half hour with Dr. Paul Moller. Stay with us.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Hello, IRN listeners. This is MJ saying hello and sharing an awesome secret I discovered. It's called DreamNuage.com. Fresh, raw, organic ingredients are used to create all their products. They are made in very small batches to ensure quality and freshness. Handmade in the USA, each product is created with care and with the finest organic ingredients. There are no preservatives, dyes, or chemicals in any product. Stop by Dream Nuage and relax. That's DREAMNUAGE.com. Simple, raw, organic.
Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app, you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Are you looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's new interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN chat lounge, the game lounge, video lounge, or the mood lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless. Use your time wisely, keeping it all on IRN.
Hello, everyone. Lorien Fenton here, host of the California MUFON Radio Show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 once a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO sky watches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Hello, I'm Pat Ustford, inviting you to tune in to Epic Voyages every Monday evening at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Inception Radio Network. To find out more about Epic and how you can become a member, visit epicvoyagers.com.
EPIC is Extraordinary Phenomena Investigations Council, the forum for scholars, experts, and those fascinated by and involved in the study of ancient civilizations, conspiracies, cryptozoology, ETs, and UFOs, fringe science, the paranormal, and all manner of extraordinary phenomena. Please join EPIC as we examine the mysteries of the world and beyond on epicvoyagers.com. And for updates on the upcoming interactive video presentations, the latest news and discussion on the EPIC forums, as well as research, investigations, and membership opportunities. Epic Voyages program schedule is on the Inception Radio Network. Thank you for joining us.
Howdy, this is Joe Mars. I'm inviting you to tune in to Epic Voyages, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday nights, right here on Inception Radio Network. To find out more about Epic and how you can become a member, visit epicvoyagers.com. That's epicvoyagers.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. We're here on Inception Radio Network, and I just wanted to say to everybody, I forgot to tell you about joining MUFON tonight. I was so enthralled with the Skycar that I forgot. I can't believe it. So everybody, do me and do MUFON and do all of us a great service for Christmas this year. Please join MUFON. It would really help us out. We're developing a whole new CMS, the whole new database system for you to make your reports. And one of the reasons I'm really excited about this, folks, is because it's time. You know, it's 2014, going to be 2015 any second now, and we need a better way to track all this. Now, this data is going to be much more available to you once we get the new system in play. It's a huge database structure. It's all very complex for those of you who are out there that are just going, what the heck? But we have the brain power now. We have the computing power now to do this so that you can click a button and see a graph of everything that's going on in the whole United States at any given moment. And this is what we're trying to do at MUFON. We're trying to give you the information as almost in real time. And this is really important to me, and it should be important to you if you've got anything to do with ever seeing a UFO or just even thinking about aliens, or if that mashed potato moment in that movie got you, in the heart chakra. So there you are. It's really important to me that the CMS gets developed to the point where it becomes the place to go for reporting your incidents, and then it becomes part of an almost instant graph of what's happening out there in the United States. So, and hopefully we'll be able to incorporate the world pretty soon, but right now I would just be happy getting the United States under wraps. So I wouldn't have to read to you the different sizes, shapes, and whatever's going on out there every month, and I could go click this button and it's all right in front of you instantly. So that's what we're working on. So please, please, please join MUFON. The Kickstarter for the CMS is already over, and it happened during the 2 or 3 weeks I was not here. So right now, if you just join MUFON, that would help us a lot. So it's $35 a year. You get your electronic newsletter and lots of fun. You get to hear me, and I get to tell you about our MUFON meetings in Northern California. And one last thing before we get back to Dr. Paul. We're having our big MUFON holiday party this Saturday. So if you're in the Northern California area, please visit MUFONMarinSonoma.com. That's MUFON, MARIN, Sonoma, SONOMA.com. .com. It's $10.50 to come to the party, and we are going to just have the best time. I'm bringing in Skywatch people. I've got my tree with my green alien ornaments on it. I've got lights. I've got turkey. I've got mashed potatoes and gravy. I've got everything you need for a holiday party, and I have a speaker there this week named Rick Fryer, who's a science fiction writer, and he writes about UFOs that he's developed on paper. And cars, UFO cars on paper. So he's a lot like Dr. Paul, but he's doing it for science fiction novels. So he's going to be lots of fun. And we have some surprise guests coming. So if you're in the Northern California area, I already have people who have gotten hotel rooms up in Petaluma at the Motel 6 and the Best Western there, folks. And they're spending the night just to come out for this. So if you can, and you live in the area, or even a couple hours away, make a night of it. We start at 4 o'clock and we'll probably go till 2 o'clock in the morning. It's one of those great fun evenings. We do it once a year. It's a blast. I hope you can make it. So that's Northern California MUFON, and we're having our UFO holiday potluck party, and you go to MUFONMarinSonoma.com to sign up for it. Hopefully I'll see you guys there if you live in the area. Okay. Dr. Paul, are you still with us?
I am, absolutely.
Great. So, we should just have you take your flying car and come on over to the MUFON party. We'd love that. Fun. Yeah, it's going to be a blast. We do the green alien gift exchange. I'm sure you're familiar. I'm sure you're familiar with the white elephant thing where everybody gives a gift, but the first person gets to steal at the end and that type of thing. So right. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we bring all kinds of crazy UFO alien stuff, and it's all used in fun stuff, and we just have a blast. It's really a lot of fun. So anyhow, but we sure love to see you. Now, that brings me to my Santa question. Has Santa gotten a hold of you yet for his flying car? Because
certainly ease his task, I suspect, but no, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, because, the kids, in the future, they should really actually be seeing him with a flying car instead of reindeer. I mean, I think that's just so old-fashioned, don't you?
Absolutely.
Oh, my God. Anyhow, okay, back to reality. You and I were talking about how the system would work, the computer system, and I said to you on the break, I said, well, is it just satellite or does it involve cell towers? Can you explain to everybody what you told me, because it was fascinating?
Well, GPS, of course, we're all familiar with. It's a somewhat inaccurate system, but still very impressive what you could do with it. What you do with differential GPS is you have a local, like the GPS satellite out there, that with 3 of them, you can locate yourself. You have these towers, 3 towers. As long as you can see those 3 towers, you then sort of ping off the towers for your position, and that allows you to locate yourself, in this case, because the towers are anchored to the ground, so it's a very, very known status. You can then know exactly where you are within inches, and this is really what's used around airports. This allows these planes to be landed by computers. Otherwise, you can imagine how difficult that would be. Didn't have that.
What I failed to ask you during our quick conversation there was, do they have to put in special cell-type towers or different types of...
Yeah, around the airports they have special towers, but quite frankly, I would guess that in the future, when these become really significant in terms of everybody's usage, that they will probably use the existing system. There's nothing that prevents present cell towers, telephone towers, to have another form of antenna attached to it. And since they're pretty much prevalent, the only difference is you have to really be in contact with 3 towers at the same time. So you'd probably have, 1 tower on the top of each mountain in an area that would serve a whole valley, for example.
Absolutely. Well, this would be a good industry for somebody to get into in the future. If you guys are out there looking for a job, this is where it's going to probably head, because I do know that in Marin County, up on what they call Rock Ridge or something like that, right above me, and it's like, 1,000 feet up, I can see it, is a giant tower, and they use it for the police here. They use it for the sheriff's department. They use it for radio internet. They use it for everything. And I just the minute you said that, I went, oh, so that means that every kind of ridge line throughout the United States is going to have one of these towers at some point eventually.
Right. Well, think about it in terms of cost. The cost of a tower compared to a highway, a 3 or 4 lane highway, which then has to be maintained, patrolled and maintained. The cost difference is orders of magnitude, and that's why the system, when it comes about, will expand very, very rapidly because it's so free. You look above your head at any time. It's a little different around the city, but if you're in the country where I live, you look up in the air, and the world is basically free of anything moving about, and so you've got all this unused airspace above you to build a whole world around.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's very intriguing to me. So you guys, did you just hear what I said? There's going to be a boom in the next 10 years of people building those towers, maintaining those towers, taking care of them. So if you get into what would they need, electronics course to be able to maintain and build those type of things?
Well, there'll be mechanical, electrical, civil, every engineering profession will be involved, and a lot of other professions. Software issues will be a significant factor in all of this.
Yeah.
It's a great world coming in that regard. I just hope we have the world together still by then.
Yeah, me too. What are your fears about that? Around the world?
I just feel that it's what's going on today seems a little extreme. Very provocative activities going on that make me uncomfortable, as it does many other people, as to what the consequence might be.
Yeah.
We've got a pretty good life for the most part, and certainly we wouldn't want to spoil it with some kind of international incident.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. And then, it's not a political show here. My Monday show is much more oriented towards that, but I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. And that's why I think people need your flying car. It's one of those things that will keep us, hopefully heading towards the future. And like JFK, I was talking about his assassination conference earlier, he said some extraordinary things, in his lifetime. I don't know who his script writer or speech writer was, but that guy was a genius. Because that guy motivated the American people in so many ways, way beyond, I think, his time as well. Saying things like it's not what you can do, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I mean, that's just, right there. And that just sets your whole mind into the future and creating and not being self-centered. And, it just gets you off in a whole nother mindset. And that's what your flying car represents to me as well, is that it's the hope for the future, that we are expanding, we are growing, we're going to go to the moon with your car. To me, that's what the feeling
is. It's very interesting. One of the papers I put together was a history of transportation in America, and there's been really 3 existing revolutions. First, there were the canals, which is the way we got around.
Absolutely.
It's sort of an S curve. It starts off at a very low rate of growth, then it goes through a linear period, and then it dies off in a non-linear way over a period typically of something like, average around 50 years for that to complete. And they had the canals first, and then that died about the same time as the railway system began. And the railway system died about the same time. It didn't die, of course, but it stopped growing. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say died. It stopped growing about the time that the automotive system came into play. And now the automotive system is saturated. They're not building any new freeways to any degree that's meaningful to us. And now we have this alternative of transportation in the air. So whether I did what I'm doing or not is irrelevant to the future here. It's going to happen. I'm hoping to speed it up through what I'm doing, but it's inevitable that we're moving into a phase where the 4th phase of transportation, and probably the last one other than going through some kind of 3-dimensional change of our body into some kind of transportation beyond anything we can imagine today. This is the last system that's going to be practical on Earth, and it'll be the system that will give you a degree of freedom we've never had before.
Absolutely. And you're talking about teleportation, just like in Star Trek.
That would be the next one, if it's going to ever be possible, right?
Yeah, that's the one I worry about becoming a blob in. That's the one where they say, "Oh, those molecules didn't go back together well at the other end."
That's what I worry about too. But
oh gosh,
not going to happen in my lifetime.
Yeah, mine either. But your car is, and that's it's very important to me. So yeah, so we'll get on that bandwagon and we'll start talking it up because, like I said, it represents hope. It represents the future. It also represents, in a weird way, our past. Because Paul, you've been working on this for a long time. When did you actually start your whole concept for the first car?
Well, I had to go back till I was 15 when I started building my first helicopter. And of course, I was a farmer's son, and I had a fair amount of tools relative to most kids, but certainly I didn't have the level of requirements to achieve that. I did accomplish a fair amount in the process, and ended up building a system that my father used for some years, but it never turned out to be a helicopter because that was well beyond my capability. But it did get me excited about trade school, and I ended up going to a trade school rather than university for some time to become an aircraft mechanic and machinist and sheet metal worker and welder. So I then used those skills to build my first aircraft in my garage.
Cool. Now, let me ask you something. Who is the designer of the sleekness and coolness of this new design that you've got going here? Was that you?
Well, it's kind of ironic that I would say I was a poor student in high school because I had absolutely no interest in school, but actually I did get good grades in art. So at least in one area I didn't do badly, but I was not your top performer in the other academics, that's for sure.
So you did design this then?
Yeah, I more or less designed most of it. Again, it's a fun part of the project because you still have to follow some very strict rules aerodynamically, but there is some flexibility that you have to work with, and that was a very big part of the fun of working on this project.
Well, I got to tell you that the wings in the back of the Skycar 200 bent up into a kind of like a spoiler foil with the three propellers. Oops, I just dropped my drink on myself, folks. I've never done that before during a show. Anyhow, the three propellers there, just quite fascinating to me because I've never seen anything like that. The Skycar 400 has the stabilizer wing on the back. Right, so right. How is the Skycar 200 going to work that way? I don't quite get it aerodynamically.
You're seeing it in a folded form. Those wings fold back so that you can drive.
Oh, I got
on the street. But they do have to fold up because aerodynamics does demand that you have wings, and they have to be reasonably good size to be efficient. In fact, you size them precisely for maximum efficiency at some design speed.
Well, I'm glad I asked that question because I thought you'd come up with some new form of almost like a missile in the way you designed this with this airfoil hole on the side.
So you've got to reduce this to 8.5 feet wide to be legal on a highway. So that gets you some that's one of the toughest constraints of this whole design is to make it streetable. I say I wouldn't call it a highway vehicle, but certainly a streetable vehicle.
And the Skycar 400, do the engines themselves on the side fold up? Is that how that becomes street legal?
The nacelles rotate for vertical takeoff, and then they go back straight for horizontal thrust. So you actually aren't flying like an airplane until you're doing 125 miles an hour.
Whoa!
Up until that time, you're getting some help from the lifting ducts. But at around 125 to 135 miles an hour, you become an airplane. And the beauty of that is that you don't have to have big wings, which means that you reduce the drag tremendously. And that's one of the reasons this vehicle performs so well, or one of the reasons it can go so fast efficiently, is it has very small wings.
Wow, this is going to be so cool to be in when it does its thing. Now, when you get up to that when you're going up vertically and then the wings, not the wings, but the engines turn to go horizontally, what happens to you during that 3 or 4 seconds or 5 seconds in time to the plane itself?
Well, you're accelerating it over 1G acceleration, which would be pretty thrilling in itself because it would be faster than any, or certainly most Ferraris. You would go from 0 speed to the transitional speed, which I said was 135 miles an hour, in about 12 seconds. So you're almost a dragster type acceleration. And of course, that's possible because you have a large amount of power on board that you needed to take off vertically. And so what you want to do is you want to get away from that dangerous time when you're near the ground. And even though it's not that dangerous, it's still the most dangerous part of the trip. So you get away from that area or that region really, really quickly. And this is not it could hover for a long period of time, but we don't call it a hovering machine. It's not designed like a helicopter to spend much of its time hovering or going around at low speed. This is a real efficient transportation system that gets moving really quickly when it needs to for a number of reasons, including safety.
Yeah, exactly. So there isn't any time where the plane would actually, or the car would actually drop in height just to catch up with itself going forward.
No. I mean, it has so much power on board that it immediately accelerates at a very, very rapid and safe rate going forward.
Ooh, cool. So it'd be kind of like going up in an elevator and then being thrust forward in a Ferrari.
Yeah, you don't go very high again, because really all you want to do is get off the ground vertically, point your vehicle in exactly the right direction where you want to go off, and then you climb out at about 45 degrees under 1 G of acceleration. So you spend seconds near the ground, because at 50 feet off the ground, if something goes wrong, your parachutes will still bring you back to the ground safely if you're moving forward. So we keep the exposure to less than 2 seconds during takeoff, where you could have something go wrong. And keep in mind, even going wrong, meaning an engine failed, that's not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool. Gosh, now I want one more than ever. I just don't know what to do. This is such a conundrum for me, because I really, really want one of these. I'm just going to have to win the lottery, Paul. That's all there is to it.
Or live long enough to get the price down, right?
Yeah, that too. That would be nice. Yes. Or you never know. Like I said earlier in the show, maybe Elon Musk is, crew's listening tonight, and maybe they'll go into his office tomorrow and say, Paul's trying to get a hold of you, Dr. Paul Moller.
It's sort of a
so
shame
let's see what happens.
I think it's sort of a shame to need an Elon Musk, because he's got so many things going that are very impressive. He really doesn't need another thing in his life like the Skycar, even though obviously he's very open to the idea. But there are so many people out there that could participate in something like this and change history that really just don't have the courage to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got a couple more minutes left here. So now, everybody, I'm going to say this one more time, and there's very few things that I feel like about on the planet like this. There's only 2 other projects I know about right now that I feel like this about, and that is Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell's telepathy project, because I don't know if you know about her, Dr. Moller, but she's discovered that autistic children are probably highly telepathic. And
she's got. I didn't know that. I have a somewhat autistic son, so he's Asperger's syndrome. Very, very bright kid, but he's got that autistic element in his life.
That's interesting. They're finding out much more about it, and she's on the cutting edge of it, as a matter of fact. So check into her, Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, MD. She's wonderful. And her project I'm getting behind, I'm going to start doing things for. And also Dr. Mac, the movie with Denise Williams, Denise David Williams, I think that's how her whole name is. That movie should be made because people need to know about what this guy was all about. I mean, it's really important to people to understand that, he was like a pariah. He was like, who was the one that said the sun revolved, the earth revolved around the sun? Was that Copernicus, or God, I can never remember.
Copernicus, although Galileo was hinting at it, but Copernicus really was the one that made it, originally made it.
Yeah, didn't they kill him for it? I mean, they get to a point.
They wanted to, but I don't think they succeeded in that case. They certainly did.
Yeah. But, so many people over the years that went out on a limb like you're doing, and like Mac did, and, just all these people that are saying, look, the paradigm isn't what you think it is. There's much more to it. And that's what your flying car to me is. It represents much more than a car to me, Dr. Moller. It represents hope, the future, and what we all should be getting around and gathering our hopes and dreams for, because it really is. It's an important it's going to be an important piece of the United States, keeping us together. I really believe that. So. Yeah, great. Well, okay, folks, like I said, go to Moller.com. I can't even pronounce it anymore. My tongue is just not working tonight, guys. Dr. Paul Moller, it's Moller.com. That's MOLLER.com. And I'm going to tell you, folks, I'm going to invest my Christmas money into the company this year. I want you all to do it too. If all of you invest right now, this company could go places so fast, it wouldn't need anybody else. So please do that if you can. I really appreciate it. Dr. Paul would appreciate it. Again, that's Moller.com, MOLLER.com. Check it out. Thanks, Dr. Moller, for being on the show tonight. And good night, everybody, and I'll see you next week.